What is the best piece of science fiction you have ever read? I don't mean watched, television or movies. They don't count. Not even listen. Radio doesn't count. Read. The best piece I've ever read was actually a short work called A Logic Named Joe. And a logic named Joe pretty much predicted what the internet would be, decades before the internet was even possible. And, it's interesting to see how far we've come. We've written an article. It's really a kind of a review of one of Stephen King's novels, a recent one. And take a look. The link, of course, is for you in the description for the video. In fact, let me go ahead and pull it up there on lockergnome.com. I'll go ahead and +1 it, tweet it, and like it on Facebook so that other people, my friends, might want to take a look and potentially learn more about this particular new novel from Stephen King. And, from my understanding, again, from the review that we've crafted for you, it's about alternative timelines. What ifs. And I think out of any kind of work of fiction, whether something that I had read or something that I had watched or listened to, I always like the ones that do deal with time travel, because it is interesting to think about what life would be like if just one thing was different. And it could potentially be a small thing or a big thing that would have been different. It's one of the reasons why the idea of alternate universes and parallel universes is so intriguing, to think that one small change could mean all the difference in the world, if not the universe. So if you have any amount of geek or nerd in you, you have to love the idea that things could change with just one small adjustment of the timeline. And time travel may be possible. You could say that it's not possible, but there are people who say, no, we can prove now that these particles are moving faster than the speed of light, which could then open the door to the possibility of us being able to travel through time, potentially. Who knows? I'm not a scientist, not even close to it, but it's certainly intriguing to think about. To think about your own life and one thing that you would have changed that would have spelled all the difference. There are things in our lives that we know, if we would have done it differently, things would have turned out different. And that's one of the reasons why I try not to dwell on the past too much. Like, oh, if I did this, woulda, shoulda, coulda. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm here today. I'm happy. I'm on a good path. And hopefully you are as well. But you thought Stephen King was, just only about thrillers and horror. Well, not necessarily. He's got a big streak of geek in him. I guess you can call him a horror geek. Horror geek. Hopefully no one heard that as horror geek. That would be a different kind of geek altogether. Although I suppose you can have either one of them. Really. Let's see here. How many gadgets? Oh, I don't know. Someone was asking a question about how many gadgets have you read about in books. Well, I suppose there are a lot of things that science fiction has predicted. And before we had these items in hand, we were only dreaming about them through the words of others. And I think that's one of the reasons that geeks should love the world of science fiction. And that's just me. It's not always just about technology, but the greater world of science and things that we don't quite understand. I don't know. There's still something to be said about the good old book, even though I really only find myself drawn to things of a more visual nature. I like books with pictures in them, but there were no pictures in this book, other than what was on the cover.